Hello, Rick Miracle here again with another video in my series Freemasonry and Satanism. This will be video number 61. We've come a long ways. I'm on my second year of making these videos. And some of them are 1 video long, some of the series are 5 videos long. So we can estimate at least 100 videos, and some are 45 minutes, some are an hour and a half. So well over 100 hours, maybe 150 hours of material out there, of book reviews. And as I continue to say, the reason I do it this way is I want to give the material because some credibility, because a lot of people don't know what to think. People can say things, and where did they get the information from? Is it true? Are they deceiving us? So anyways, I like to read from the books, and as you know, I put little tabs, and I highlight the material that I'm going to read. And this book is probably going to take me at least 10 videos to complete before I decide enough is enough. Blue Lodge and Chapter Masonry Revised Edition. What it is, it's a Freemasonic handbook. Rowan's Handbook of Freemasonry. Published in 1962, as you can see. And there's the guy there with all his medals and memorabilia there for the apron and the compass. Master Mason, maybe? It's just an incredible amount of material, and the way I'm going to do this is I'll do a portion of this book to break up each video. And portions of other books to support my opinion, interpretation. I've read this book, you can see my tabs in there, by John Quincy Adams, one of the ex-presidents of the United States. And Tex Mars had this book republished and wrote the foreword, which we will review. So some invaluable insights into Freemasonry during John Quincy Adams' time frame. George Washington, Benjamin Franklin. Back then there were 2 political parties, not the Republicans and Democrats, but the Masonic Party and the Anti-Masonic Party. And generally speaking, it was the Masonic Party against the Christians, the Anti-Masonic Party. And as we will see in these materials, the Freemasons' God appears to be Lucifer, under many different names: Osiris, Ra, Baal, Moloch, Isis, Horus on the U.S. dollar bill. Why is Horus on the U.S. dollar bill, the all-seeing eye? The Egyptian pyramid. The religion from that period where God helped with Moses to get the Jewish people out of Egypt, under the control and slavery of the Pharaoh. There's much more here going on than people know. And it's responsible for all the things going on in the world right now, like these secret mystery schools, as Bill Cooper likes to call them, the Mystery School of Babylon, again, over there in Iraq and Egypt. And so whether you have Rosicrucians, whether you have Freemasons, Scottish Rite, York Rite, Kabbalah, the New Age, yoga. I know some people go, Rick, they're into yoga, they're into the New Age, they're into witchcraft. I've had people email me and say they know some witches, and they're nice people. Oh well, tossing a baby into a burning fire doesn't seem nice to me. You? The Bohemian Grove, where our presidents go, and they made the decision to make the nuclear bomb for World War II, the ones they dropped on Japan. Bohemian Grove, and they have a big bonfire under a giant owl Moloch, and then they screech and holler like a satanic ritual, and throw a baby into the fire. Cremation of care, they call it. These Illuminati, Freemasonic, Rosicrucian, Kabbalah, Zionism, Jesuits, Hollywood, banksters, witchcraft, and many, many more names. Council of Foreign Relations, Bilderbergers, Club of Rome, all of them with their depopulation goal right now, it appears, and eliminating Christianity and forcing a new one-world religion on us all, as the Pope has said. There's a video on YouTube where he is videoed talking about all the differences of all the religions have disappeared or gone now, so there's no reason to be separate anymore. What's he talking about? New Age, one world order? Family of secrets. You should see some of the stuff I have in here to connect presidents and people in charge of the CIA and the national security with Freemasonry. These people control our world. And we got one guy here wrote this book. We'll go over it, read some of it. Masonry Beyond the Light. What's he got to say? Captain William Morgan's exposition of Freemasonry. One of the insiders, Mr. Morgan, decided to tell all the goings-on inside, the secret handshakes. We'll be reviewing that. Just telling you, it's going to take quite a few videos to do this. Chair got stuck. Secrets of the Tomb. George Bush's Skull and Bones. Occult Theocracy. What is magic and witchcraft and the occult and the swastika? What's that got to do with Freemasonry? Skull and Bones. We're going to review this again and again and again and reference it while I do these about 10 videos. The Freemasonic Bible, Albert Pike. What do some of these books say about him? I got this book. Look how thick that is. The Encyclopedia of Freemasonry. I got some markers in there, stuff I want to present to you. So anyways, I'll do this video here right now on this. Read some from this book. These people control our world. We remember, and I'm going to review them again, our New Age magazines by the Freemasons. Lodges in every city, country, state in the world. The power behind all the people who are elected. It's all smoke and mirrors. Those people who are elected don't make decisions. They have to consult their masters. You're going to see the word master in here. And the masters tell them what to do, and they have to obey. It says it in these handbooks. How's that for an opening? Video number 61, Freemasonry and Satanism, book review. And as I've said many times before, if there was room enough, or logical enough, I should have called it Freemasonry, Satanism, Rosicrucian, Zionism, Jesuits, banksters, Kabbalists, witchcraft, Hollywood, kings and queens, royalty behind the scenes. It's Club of Rome and P2 groups, and there's so many names and so many countries and so many York Rite Lodges, Scottish Rite Lodges. And we went over their Book of the Rainbow, Beware of the Rainbow. And, you know, a nice thick book just partially touching on how vast is this web? How many tentacles of the octopus are out there? And it appears they worship Lucifer, Satanism, the sun. And they have like King Solomon's temple. We're going to go over that. Him and his magic ring, calling forth demons in other dimensions. What's that got to do with CERN, the collider over there in Switzerland? That seemingly some of the scientists are saying, we don't know what we're doing. We shouldn't be doing this. The last time we turned it on, we could see dead people, ghosts. Are they trying to open up a portal? I know it gets bizarre. We're going to read some of this, and bizarre is going to seem less bizarre. And history, reports this kind of activity for thousands of years. King Solomon with his magic ring, bringing forth demons. That's where he got his power. Psychic research from 1840 to 1940, just prior to World War II. Hitler was into the occult. We've gone over a lot of this stuff, so it's going to get repetitious, which is the point, is so that that I did so many books, is there would be supporting material upon supporting material upon supporting material. That, after a while, when you started watching my videos, you will get some of these books yourself, and you read them, it'll all make sense. You have a bigger part of the puzzle put together. With that said, let me just read some of this. Blue Lodge and Chapter Masonry. And some of it may seem mundane and boring, but then all of a sudden, if you hang in there, it's going to get explosive. I could be reading through this book, and all of a sudden we're going to see that they're admitting that Satan is their God. So you have to go with the bad to get the good if you want to learn what's going on. So anyways, on the first cover, I'll read this here. I like to get to the little nook and crannies of this material. That's why I said at least 10 videos with all these supporting books. And each video on the last third part of it, I will do, try to do a local news press release report. Document I find on current events that I believe is related to all of this, and the New Age and the New World Order, and some of the fear-mongering propaganda that's put out there by the powers that be, the governments that are part of these Masonic lodges. So it is relevant, and it is important. We get Miley Cyrus on stage being twerked for everybody to see. The little cartoon character, young singer as a child, that all the children, many children, worldwide embraced. And they turn her into the twerking Miley and doing all the grotesque things. Neil Patrick Harris going on stage in his underwear, then a photo shoot with his husband. Again, it's all meant to be mind control, to take you in a direction they want to take you. Katy Perry, the Super Bowl halftime show, riding the bull with the glowing eyes, with the men in the background dancing with horns. Madonna, same thing. Satanic Super Bowl halftime ritual. Beyonce, the same thing. Lady Gaga, Olympic opening, same thing. Britney Spears taking the helm, same thing. I'm just touching the surface. Hunger Games, the movie Divergent. So let me start reading some of this. Knowing the background that these people have controlled the world for a long time. And apparently, like it says on the Georgia USA Guidestones, they want to reduce the population and kill off 6 billion, I guess. It says it. Alright, containing a thorough exposition of all the signs, grip, passwords, and hieroglyphics used by Freemasons, also the proper manner of opening, closing, and conducting the lodge, together with the correct method of conferring the 3 degrees of ancient craft and masonry, entered apprentice, fellow craft, and master mason. So basically, when you join a lodge, you're expected to at least make it to through their 1, 2, 3 degrees, the entered apprentice, fellow craft, and master mason. And a lot of people never go past that. They just become part of this secret group with secret handshakes and secret knowledge, and they think everybody else is lesser than them, and they call them the profane. So even if you're a father and you're a Mason and your son doesn't join, he's not really accepted. He's profane. He's to be treated badly, taken advantage of, because he's not one of the Masons. Truly, this is what they say. Alright, Edmund Rowanane, late past master of Keystone Lodge, number 639, which I suspect is a interesting occultic satanic number, 639. Chicago, Illinois, author of the Master's Carpet, Masonic Oaths, and Chapter Masonry. So there's the beginning of the opening. And you can see I've tabbed this thing here, and I'm still got some more to read here, but I got enough to get started to do the video. It's been a week or so since I made a video because I have been studying, restudying this material, and trying to wrap my head around how and what I was going to do with this subject, which I think is an important subject. These people rule the world. They're making decisions. They're taking over countries, taking over whole vast mineral oil resources, agriculture, starting wars, killing off masses of people. These people, they're behind the scenes operators. Alright, Handbook of Freemasonry, a complete lodge manual. A lodge of Freemasons is organized as follows. A sufficient number of well-known brethren, no fewer at least than 8, in good standing or holding demits from some other regular lodge, send a petition to the Grand Master of the state. So every lodge, Grand Master has to report to a Grand Master of the state or territory in which they reside, setting forth that they desire to organize a lodge of free and accepted Masons. And in my previous videos I showed you those blue round signs, like a small stop sign, that are posted along the highway in several states that I've traveled, and it says Freemasonry, ancient and accepted. So you're driving down Highway US 1, and there's this little blue sign, a little bigger than twice the size of this book, and it says Freemasonry, ancient and accepted. Now, if you know anything about law, legal law, government law, treaty law, whatever, they were posting that to, just like if you were going through bankruptcy or of a divorce, you would put an ad in the paper saying that you were no longer responsible for so-and-so's financial debts and all that stuff. Well, for legal purposes, to, I guess, gain their legal rights and recognition and authority, these blue signs, I believe, are posted all over the country. And every city you approach, they got a big billboard that says all that there. All the different groups and lodges and organizations that are in that town. So they're giving notice. And we've looked at those in my previous videos, and before I'm over with this series on this book, I'll dig those photos back up and show them to you again. But when I was driving around Maine, every road I went down, there was that ancient Freemasonry, ancient and accepted. And I'm thinking, I never accepted them. But apparently if nobody objects, they are ancient and accepted, and they get the authority given to them because nobody is opposing them. Well, from what I know, I'm opposing them now. I'm not part of their party. I don't want the mark of the beast. Get microchipped. New World Order. In slavery. And these people, they're Lucifer be God. I choose no. Alright. So the lodges have to send a petition to the Grand Master of the state or territory in which they reside, setting forth that they desire to organize a lodge of free and accepted Masons at such and such a place for the purpose of practicing the mysteries and incalculating the doctrines and principles of Freemasonry. Wouldn't you like to know what the secrets and the doctrines and things that they do? Well, you can't know because their members, when they get initiated, so they can get illuminated, Illuminati, get it? They can get illuminated. They have to have a dagger put to their chest and swear on a Bible to, under threat of some horrendous, brutal death, that they won't divulge the secrets. It seems like a kind of a strong vow to take, oath to take. Alright, and again, I'm not reading everything, I'm just highlighting some material. You can go online, find this book on a used book site. Should you be so induced to do so, to find all the material, you see for yourself. It is as well established, it is a well-established fact as anything can possibly be that Freemasonry is a consummate swindle from beginning to end. It is as well established a fact as anything can possibly be that Freemasonry is a consummate swindle from beginning to end. A deliberate fraud through and through, and hence it would make a curious chapter in Masonic history if, when a new lodge is formed, a brief account of its organization could be published. The public could then see whether Freemasons' lodges are established for the general good, or whether they are not in the majority of cases. This is in his book here. Organized by designing tricksters, men whom Masonry makes cunning for their own selfish purposes, and because they have been either dissatisfied or disgusted with the way things have been running in their own lodge. So what they're saying is here, a lot of lodges were started by selfish people because they didn't like the way the people running the lodge that they were at were doing. So they spin off somewhere and they open up their own lodge. I guess they could see the power. Anyway, skipping on, what becomes of all the Masonic money? I ought to add further, perhaps, that the lodge receives its chapter on the 9th day of October, 1869, when the Grand Lodge met at Springfield, Illinois. Springfield. Homer Simpson's. Bart Simpson. Isn't that Springfield? A lot of coincidences. And when Harmon G. Reynolds was Grand Master, and that the following report was presented on January 3rd, 1870, here's the document. So they had this report about the money. Collecting dues, paying bills. I didn't highlight any of that. Page 6. Thirdly, the Grand Lodge of Illinois, for the sum of $75, gave them permission to open their Masonic Confidence Shop. Masonic Confidence Shop. So they have this new Masonic Lodge in town, which is a confidence shop, and they're recruiting members and give them all kinds of promises of secret doctrines and rituals and mysteries, and get some kind of mystique about them and wind up in control of the local politics probably, because they bring in all these politicians and support them into public offices, giving them an edge over the public, which you will see in these books of preferential treatment, and actually detrimental treatment to anybody who's not a Mason. It says it in here. Give them permission to open up their Masonic Confidence Shop and to sell Masonic so-called secrets to any white man of mature age who might be foolish enough to buy them, thus encouraging and perpetrating the fraud of issuing its charter or warrant, empowering them to work. In this manner, Freemason lodges are organized, and the money flinched from the poor, selfish, deluded dupes who join them is disposed of. Every Masonic lodge in the world is a fraud, The sale of its sham degrees is but obtaining money under false pretenses. And what is worse, the Masons themselves know it. This being the case then, and desiring to do what I can toward exposing the swindle and the outrageous humbug of these dark gangs of conspiracy, I would earnestly call the reader's attention to the following pages as containing the literally correct ritual and work of Freemasonry. So he's basically bashing all the lodges out there, but he's going to put this book together in order to try to correct the goings-on and the ritual and work of Freemasonry, make it clear. So a lot of people I talk to, and I say the Freemasonic lodges in every city, downtown, everywhere, they're part of the evil conspiracy towards the planet Earth. And a lot of people get angry and they go, well, my uncle was a Mason, my father was a Mason. Well, you just read right here, a lot of people on the lower levels are swindled and are duped and are given promises of divine secrecy. And who doesn't seek God or seek the understanding, or people who are into New Age, holistic healing, and all these abilities, the mysteries? It's a temptation that just a lot of people get drawn to, including me. I had to learn how to do some of the using the dowsing rods to find water, or the pendulum, or read books and holistic healing. I didn't get to where I am now by not studying a lot of books, finding out what was true and what was false. I wanted to read it all, decide for myself. With that said, Chapter 1, Lodge of Entered Apprentice. Remember, that's the first one. Opening ceremonies. As has been already intimidated, the presiding officer of a lodge of Masons, and in fact its supreme head for the time being, is the worshipful master. They call him the worshipful master. Next to him in rank, official rank, is the senior warden, and next to him is the junior warden. These officers always occupy stations in the east, west, and south, respectively. The lodge room being situated due east and west, and in the religious, get it now, religious symbolism of Freemasonry, they represent the sun at his rising, his meridian, and his setting. So they're calling the sun a his. Sun God. On entering a Masonic lodge, the first object that will particularly attract one's attention is the altar. So they're calling the Masonic lodges of religious symbolism, and they have an altar situated in the room, center of the room, midway between east and west. Page 8. Okay, and again, I'm only reading what I highlighted. Pardon me for not reading it all, it would take forever. Worshipful Master. 1 rap. Brother, Junior Deacon, you will see that the tiler is at his post and to close the door. They have a tiler whenever they have meetings between the door of the inner room and the door to the outside. There's like a small hallway. And the tiler has to be on duty whenever they have meetings. And the raps on the door to the room from the tiler sends warnings or messages to the people inside. So no meeting is ever taking place without a tiler, a guard, in the small hallway between the outside and the inside. Alright, Junior Deacon, will you see that the tiler is at his post? And close the door. The Junior Deacon, looking into the anteroom, that would be the hallway, to see if the tiler is there, closes the door and replies, the tiler is at his post. Worshipful. Alright, for the position of God's Word in the Masonic Lodge, see the Master's Carpet by Roanoke. Just a little note on the bottom there. Okay, Worshipful Master. And when I say that, that's the person who's speaking next. Worshipful Master, giving one rap. Brother Senior Warden, all are present Masons? The junior deacon, then taking his rod, proceeds around the lodge room, stepping in front of every brother, whom he does not personally know, and raps. And anybody who he doesn't know must retire to the anteroom to await, if he sees fit, the action of the examining committee. So what they do is anybody who enters a lodge who's not known, they'll put him in a small room and interrogate him. And I guess here's one of the interrogations. Worshipful Master, how tiled? Junior Deacon, by a Master Mason armed with the proper implement of his office. So the Worshipful Master, is the door tiled? Is it guarded? And who is it guarded? By a Master Mason armed with the proper implement of his office. The Tiler's Station, Junior Deacon, outside the inner door with a drawn sword in his hand. Worshipful Master, his duty. Junior Deacon, to guard against the approach of cowards and eavesdroppers, and see that none pass or repass, but such that are duly qualified and have permission. Okay, moving on. Worshipful Master gives one rap. Bro, Senior Warden, whence came you? Senior Warden, from a lodge of the Saints John of Jerusalem. You're going to notice all this is focused around Jerusalem, and some around Egypt and King Solomon's temple in Jerusalem. Makes you wonder what all that's about. What came you to do, says the Worshipful Master, Senior Warden, to learn to subdue my passions and improve myself in Masonry. Okay, a little note here again by the author. How could he come from a lodge of the Saints John when the Saints John never were Masons? That's by the Master's Carpet by the same author here. Next page, 12. Worshipful Master, how shall I know you to be a Mason? Senior Warden, by certain signs, a token, a ward, and the points of my entrance. Worshipful Master, what are the signs? Senior Warden, right angles, horizontals, and perpendiculars. Worshipful Master, what is a token? Senior Warden, a certain friendly and brotherly grip, whereby one Mason may know another in the dark as well as the light. Worshipful Master, your duty, Brother Junior Deacon. And again, I'm only reading the highlighted portions, so I'll be jumping around. With the assistance of the stewards, prepare and present candidates. So whenever anybody wants to join the lodge, the junior deacon, with the assistance of the stewards, prepare and present candidates for application to be a Freemason. That's one of the duties of the junior deacon. Worshipful Master, your duty, Brother Senior Deacon, to carry orders from the Worshipful Master to the east, to the Senior Warden in the west, and elsewhere around the lodge, as required, to introduce and accommodate visiting brethren, receive and conduct candidates. They're always recruiting candidates. One way, usually by recommendation of one friend recommending another friend. There are some rules about their active solicitation of people. Worshipful Master, your duty, Brother Secretary, to observe the will and pleasure of the Worshipful Master. Record all the proceedings of the lodge. Proper to be written, transmit a copy of the same to the Grand Lodge when required. Receive all monies paid into the lodge. Pay them over to the treasurer, taking his receipt thereof. Worshipful Master, Brother Treasury. Alright, moving on. Again, I'm skipping a lot here. Worshipful Master, Brother Senior Warden, it is my order that Keystone Lodge number 630 now be now opened on the first degree of Masonry. In this you will communicate to the Junior Warden in the South, and he to the brethren, that all having due notice thereof may govern themselves accordingly. So the Lodge number 636 be now opened on the first degree of Masonry. And again, it says here, the Keystone Lodge number 639 be now opened on the first degree of Masonry. Take due notice thereof and govern yourselves according. What I did notice is that 639 number, whenever they do this, they mention it 3 times. 639, 639, 639. So I just wonder what that means, if anything. Alright, okay, so this is the allusion to the manner in which an entered apprentice's hands are placed when taking the obligation. The left hand supporting the Holy Bible, square and compass, and the right hand resting thereon. Now drop the left hand carelessly and draw the right edge across the throat. So you're going to see a picture here of a guy holding a Bible with the left hand and his right hand on top of the Bible. And the other picture here is the entered apprentice doing one of these numbers. Now, what does this mean? You probably can guess. It's called the penal sign. The sign of entered apprentice alludes to the penalties of the obligation, having my throat cut across, my tongue torn out by the roots. That's what it says here. So when they swear on a Bible to take the apprentice degree, and they have to show the penal sign, which says that they're saying that I know that if I divulge any of the secrets of the Masonic Lodge, having my throat cut across and my tongue torn out by the roots. Alright, moving on. Worshipful Master, brethren, before declaring the lodge open, let us reverently invoke the blessing of deity. And removing his hat, he repeats the following so-called prayer. As seen in the annexed figure, let us pray. I believe you're not supposed to swear. But anyway, so they got this worshipful master opening the lodge, the supreme ruler of the universe. We would, and this is what the lodge looks like. Notice the G and the sun's rays in the background. He's opening the lodge. Look at the sun's rays in the background and the G, which some say doesn't stand for God. Gnostics, which is the pagan religion, or geometry. Again, occultic magic is all geometry. So anyways, moving on from 17. Supreme ruler of the universe, we would reverently invoke thy blessing at this time. Wilt thou be pleased to grant at this meeting, thus begin in order, may be conducted in peace and closed in harmony. Amen. Response by the brethren, so mote it be. Or this is another prayer. Most holy and glorious Lord God, the great architect of the universe. So they don't call it Jesus or anything like that, or Buddha. They call him the great architect of the universe. The giver of all good gifts and graces. Thou hast promised that where 2 or 3 are gathered together in thy name, thou wilt be in the midst of them and bless them. In thy name we have assembled, and in thy name we desire to proceed in all our doings. Grant that the sublime principles of Freemasonry may so subdue every discordant passion within us, so harmonize and enrich our hearts with thine own love and goodness, that the lodge be at this time may humbly reflect that order and beauty which reign forever in thy throne. Amen. So mote it be. And according I declare Keystone Lodge number 639 opened on the first degree of Masonry. Brother Junior Deacon informed the Tyler, Senior Tyler Deacon approaches the altar situated in the center of the room, opposite the Junior Warden, has already explained, and opens usually to Psalms 133. So the Bible is open to Psalms 133. And places it upon it the square and compass, the latter open, and with both points of the compass below the square in a manner shown by the annexed cut, returns to his place. The junior deacon at the same time gives 3 knocks at the door, which are answered by 3 from the Tyler outside guarding the door. The junior deacon then gives 1, which is answered 1 from the Tyler. The door is then opened, and the junior deacon whispers to the Tyler that the lodge is open on the first degree, after which he closes the door and reports to the master. The Tyler is informed, worshipful, when the master gives 1 rap and the lodge is seated. So they have the Bible and they have the compass and the square situated like that. And the lodge is open, and again, yet they've advised the Tyler guarding the door with his sword drawn to keep out the eavesdroppers. Past master wears a compass opened on a quarter circle, sun in the center. So one of their, you'll see all this so many times. They have a circle with a sun in the center, I guess as a representation of the sun god. Alright, chaplain, an open Bible, tailor a sword, saber-shaped. I'm not going to read too much of this, but in every video I make, I will read 30 minutes to 45 minutes from this. And maybe we will proceed through this book and pick up some details of the goings-on inside the secret Masonic lodges. Alright, I shall now proceed to open on the second. So once they open on the apprentice level, they have to open up to the second level. The junior deacon, then taking his rod, proceeds around the lodge room, stopping in front of every brother whom he does not personally know, and raps on the floor with his rod, and that brother thus challenged, if not vouched for by someone present, must retire to the anteroom to await, if he sees fit, the action of the examining committee. So a second time when they open up the lodge after the first apprentice level, first degree, and then they open up to the second degree, they have to do the same thing all over again. Alright, should there be 1 or more entered apprentices present, that's first degree, the senior warden will report, all present who are not fellowcraft, second degree, worshipful, upon which the master will request all those below the degree of fellowcraft, second degree, to please retire. So if you're only advanced to the apprentice degree, first degree, you can't stay in the lodge during the meeting when they're opening to the second level, the fellowcraft degree. And entered apprentices then step to the altar, give the due guard, the sign that they remember that if they say anything, they get their throat cut and their tongue ripped out by the roots, and sign and retire to the anteroom with the Tyler, or leave the lodge completely, whatever. Alright, moving on. The senior and junior deacons both step to the altar, and from there approach the senior warden's station, to whom they communicate in a whisper the pass of the fellowcraft. which is Shibboleth. And apparently over there somewhere in the Middle East there was a big war between two tribes. And how they could tell who was from one tribe or the other. Some of the other tribe, their dialect, they couldn't say the word Shibboleth. So they were immediately executed. So that's how they got rid of the members of the other tribe that they didn't want. So they couldn't say that word. You can look it up on Wikipedia. Alright, it ought to be observed that in collecting this password, the deacons are not to stoop down so that a brother may whisper it while sitting, but they must stand erect, and every member must rise to his feet, whisper the password, again take his seat. So it's just weird that they use that password, which comes from that realm of thinking in the history, ancient history. I have been somewhat particular in describing this ceremony because, though simple in itself, I have met but very few deacons who are well able to perform it with neatness and precision, and further, because it is a ceremony which must on no occasion be omitted either in the Grand Lodge or the Blue Lodge. So he goes on in detail, which I'm not going to read, but all the exact goings and backs and forth of the worshipful master and the senior warden. A repeat of what we just did earlier. They do it over and over and over and over and over. Okay, now drop the left hand carelessly to the side and draw the right hand with the fingers a little bent and turn inward swiftly across the breast from left to right, and drop the hand perpendicularly to the side. This is called the sign of the fellowcraft, and it is illusion of the penalty of the obligation, having my left breast torn open. So the apprentice craft is having your throat cut, and the fellowcraft is having your left breast torn open, and he makes that kind of penal sign. If he divulges the secrets of the lodge, that's the penalty for the fellowcraft, second degree. So the penal sign is different for the different degrees. As we will see as we read through this book, even in the third degree and other 3 degrees, the penal sign, the threat of how you will be killed, is different. Alright, I'm going to read this last bit here, and I'll move on to something else. Page 28, Master Mason's Lodge Opening Ceremony. In the technical language of Masonry, a lodge of entered apprentices represents the ground floor of King Solomon's temple. There, I told you. A lodge of fellowcrafts, the middle chamber, and the lodge of Master Masons, the Sanctum Sanctorum, or the Holy of Holies. In referring to the Jerusalem temple, however, it must be borne in mind that every part of the Masonic system is symbolic. Consequently, that all allusions made in the ritual to King Solomon's temple are only to be understood as symbolizing the erection of the spiritual temple in the heart. Pure and spotless, which Freemasonry professes to build every one of its members, Jew or Gentile, without the remotest reference to the name or atonement of Christ. So they don't want you to mention Christ, as we shall find out more in these books. In this way, and only in this, can the philosophy of Freemasonry and its true symbolism be rightly understood, and then it will be discovered that it is such a stupendous mass of infidelity and imposture that modern civilization never witnessed its equal. So it's a huge big lie. He says here, such a stupendous mass of infidelity and imposture that modern civilization never witnessed its equal. So the Illuminati Masonic lodges all over the world are just one huge imposter. And if the public knew, they wouldn't believe it. So I'm going to take a break and do the rest of this video on another issue related. Well, now that we've read a little bit about the Masonic lodges and their openings, and a little bit about the degrees and the protocol, and King Solomon's Temple and Egypt, thought we'd just expand our worldly knowledge about Freemasonry. And this looked like a good book I acquired a while back. Family of Secrets. The Bush Dynasty, America's Invisible Government, and the Hidden History of the Last 50 Years by Russ Baker. And the one thing I thought on the back I would look at, and I'm only going to read a very little bit from this, but it should be able to prove something, make a point. Anyways, the first review back here on the top. A tour de force, Family of Secrets, has made me rethink even those events I witnessed with my own eyes. Dan Rather. So he read this book, and he had to rethink some of the things he thought he knew, that he had witnessed as a news reporter. We all know Dan Rather. So anyways, page 91. And I may look up more things from this book in the future, but for now, just 3 things I wanted to point out. Kennedy's gutsiest and arguably his most dangerous domestic initiative, Kennedy, President Kennedy, arguably his most dangerous domestic initiative was his administrative's crusade against the oil depletion allowance, the tax break that swelled uncounted oil fortunes. So the oil barons had this thing called a depletion allowance, which saved them a huge amount of money on taxes. They were getting filthy rich. It gave oil companies a large and automatic deduction regardless of their actual cost as compensation for dwindling assets in the ground. That's nice. Alright, the oil industry, in particular, the more financially vulnerable Dallas-based independents, did not welcome this intrusion. So you're saying, what's this got to do with Freemasonry? I'm getting to it. Hoover, we all know who Hoover was, President Hoover, FBI Director Hoover. Hoover's close relationship with the oil industry was part of the oil intelligence link he shared with Dulles and the CIA. So Dulles was also a head of the CIA for a while. So you got these big tax allowances, you got these insiders in the oil industry hooked up with the CIA and the intelligence community. Okay? As appetizing the absurdity of this giveaway to the rich and powerful. I'm saying the word wrong, but Time magazine had an article. Another strong defender of the allowance was Democratic Senator Robert Kerr of Oklahoma, the multi-millionaire owner of Kerr-McGee Oil Company. So the Democratic senator from Oklahoma was a millionaire on his own right in oil. So yeah, he would prefer to have the depletion allowance tax continued. So friendly was he with his Republican colleague. Remember, this is Kennedy's gutsiest and arguably his most dangerous domestic initiative. Another reason to kill him? Alright, with his Republican colleague, here we go, Prescott Bush, George Bush's daddy, was that Poppy Bush has started up his Zapata offshore operation. Kerr offered some of his own executives to help him. So when Poppy Bush, Prescott, started his Zapata oil offshore operation. Kerr offers some of his own executives to help Bush get started. Several of them even left Kerr's company to become Bush's top executives. Kerr today is almost completely forgotten, except perhaps in his native Oklahoma. But he was for decades one of the most powerful men in American politics. He played a significant role in the career of Harry Truman, with whom he shared early roots as a fellow Freemason and member of the militaristic Army Legion. These people all got groups behind the scenes. Although the former haberdasher would publicly exhibit some independence, he often buckled privately to Kerr and his like-minded friends. So their early roots in fellow Freemasonry. That's where they got their starts. Interesting. We're going to find out more. Pays to be a Freemason if you want to go places. Zapruder is widely characterized as an innocent bystander, simply an onlooker who happened to capture historic footage that would dominate the evidentiality debate. So apparently this Zapruder guy was videoing Kennedy's assassination and caught it on film. Zapruder also sat on the board of Neil Mallard's Dallas Council of World Affairs. Dallas Council of World Affairs. There's another group, like the Council of Foreign Relations, Heritage Foundation, the one that Hillary Clinton goes before and speaks to, and thanks them for their advice to her. Like numerous figures in this story, he had a propensity for groups built on loyalty and secrecy. There's your Freemasons. The penal sign. Loyalty and secrecy, having attained the status of 32nd degree Freemasonry. There it is. So they recruit people from the lodges in all the cities and all the towns, and they collect a lot of money, and they play this little game of secrets and illusions. And if you add it all up, and all the facilities and all the people worldwide, and then as they rise higher, they get placed in positions of power, who swear oaths to secrecy and to defend each other. Get it? Got it? Having attained the status of 32nd degree Freemasonry. The film he would make on November 22 would soon be purchased by Harry Luce, a skull and bones colleague of Prescott Bush. So Prescott Bush, George Bush's daddy, and George Bush, father of George Bush Jr., a Skull and Bones member. Prescott Bush was a Skull and Bones Yale graduate, again. The secret schools. School of Babylon. Secrets. A devotee of intelligence. So a lot of these Freemasonic people wind up working for the intelligence agencies and move up quickly. Once you're a Freemason, whose wife Claire Booth Luce had personally funded events to overthrow Castro. So these people are pretty well connected. Make so much money they helped overthrow Castro. Harry Luce had warned that JFK would be punished if he went soft on communism. After quickly purchasing the original Zapruder film, Luce's Life magazine kept it in lockdown until New Orleans DA Jim Garrison successfully subpoenaed it in 1969. Because remember, Kennedy was killed in 1963. At the moment that Kennedy's car passed the Stemmons freeway sign on Elm Street, in Delaney Plaza, Kennedy was killed. That's a Freemasonic location. There's an obelisk right there. Delaney Plaza, an obelisk. This was all... A man standing in front of the grassy knoll opened up an umbrella and pumped it repeatedly over his head. La da da, moving on. So there they go. They were 32nd degree Mason, Skull and Bones, Prescott Bush, in this book. And that was on page 116. You can get this book. This is book review after all. I'm not trying. I don't want to tell you to believe me. I found all this information in a book. So Freemasonry is a lot more than what it seems. Page 344. The Philippines had been a gem in the American colonies empire since it, like Cuba, came under U.S. control after the Spanish-American War in 1898. Well, I didn't know that. They didn't teach me that in high school or grade school history. That the Philippines had been a gem in the American colony empire. The United States of America. I guess the United States, with 170 bases worldwide, is under the control of people on the inside who are empire builders. And we know from my New Age magazines, which we'll go over again, the Freemasons have lodges everywhere, all over the world, controlling the leaders, presidents, elections, and murders and assassinations. Collectively called the Illuminati. Fritz Springmeier's book. Get this book. It names names. Who was it that said presidents are selected, they are not elected? Roosevelt? Fritz Springmeier's book shows that most of them are all related to each other. It's a family dynasty. No wonder they want to do Hillary Clinton and Jeb Bush. They probably already know that Jeb is going to win. But they got to make it look like a good fist fight for the public. The Philippines, even more than Cuba, was rich in resources, including gold, copper, sugar, and other strategic commodities. Oh my God, that set them up. Gold? And more than a few big names did their apprenticeship in the fertile islands. Before he became president of the United States, Bush family associate, there you go again, Bonesman William Howard Taft was a civilian governor there. So the United States Empire had a governor over there in the Philippines. How much of the world do these empire builders out of Washington, how big is the scope of this? And why are they doing the Jade Helm thing in the USA? This is the 24th of April, 2015. Where they're having exercises on maybe a half of the United States of America. With the SWAT team type of people, cops and military people going in there to pretend to collect dissidents, people who they think won't comply with the New World Order. This is going on right now. Today, for the last week, and for the next 2 months. And a lot of the alternate websites are worried about that it's going to go live because they even have all kinds of weapons being shipped all over the country, going into towns, living in barns, the military, police, and everything. Strange. So we have an empire here, was rich in resources. Anyways, and more than a few big names did their apprenticeship in the fertile lands before he became president. Bush family associate William Howard Taft was a civilian governor. So was Harry Stimson, the Bonesman, again Skull and Bones from Yale, who would serve in 5 presidential administrations. So you see, you get in these Freemasonic societies, Masonic societies, Rosicrucian, there's all kinds of these secret mystery school societies. All worshiping Lucifer, that's their god, by the way. Who would address Poppy Andover's graduating class. The family of future America, General Douglas MacArthur, was part of this same American cadre managing the Philippines. So even Douglas MacArthur was over there making his money managing the Philippines. From a young age, even before marrying into the Rockefeller family, there you go, that's mentioned in Bloodlines of the Illuminati. We've went over this, we'll go over it again. Rockefeller family, Rothschild, Chases, Morgans, all these people, Schiffs, Warburgs, all part of the Illuminati, which control all the Masonic lodges, all that. And the people in the lower levels of the Masonic lodges don't have a clue what's going on. They're dupes, as said in that book. They are deceived. They are part of something they know not of. So before marrying into the Rockefeller family, Stone was trusted at high levels. In World War II, he did intelligence work related to ports and oil in Iran for the acclaimed mariner engineer Benjamin Casey Allen III. Okay, you're asking, what's this got to do with Freemasonry, Rick? William Cusha, hailing from New York, obtained his law degrees from St. John's University, graduating a year ahead of William Casey, the future CIA director. During the war, Cusha was also sent to the Philippines, where he worked in the General MacArthur's legal department. Allen, Stone, and Cusha all attained high status within the secretly prizing Freemasonry. So once you get high status within the secrecy prizing Freemasonry, it says it right here, with Allen and Stone becoming 32nd degree Masons, and Cusha eventually attaining the coveted rank of Grand Master. One does not need to put too fine a point on it to recognize that such bonds of loyalty and discretion, seen elsewhere in the Skull and Bones, do wonders for preserving secrecy over long periods of time, and are therefore enormously useful for maintaining discipline within the vast covert operation networks. Get the book, read it. I've only looked up I just looked up in the index back here on this book because I haven't read it, but I looked up Freemasonry and it has it mentioned in 3 places, so I just thought I would go review it, do a little homework. Apparently this guy Russ Baker didn't design a whole book about Freemasonry, and we just seen the 3 references he made in there. So like I said, this is my first video on the series of this one here, 61, Freemasonry and Satanism. And it does say Satan in this book. So how apropos is it that I called this series Freemasonry and Satanism? As we shall see. And as I promised at the end of each video, I will do a some kind of current events report. And somebody I would like to talk about was a leading writer for Forbes magazine, which I'm sure a lot of people know who it is. And this one writer moved to Japan. His name is Benjamin Fulford. And you can find his website at benjaminfulford.com. I've been following him for a while. I just printed this out today. But here's some of the titles on the front of this. And this is important stuff. Knowing that these Freemasonic people were ruling the world. No mistaking it. They're behind the scenes. We just seen where they're in the CIA, presidents, George Bush, Skull and Bones, Prescott Bush, Daddy Bush. Now they want Jeb Bush to come again. These people actually think it's their dynasty. That they're some kind of divine entities. So anyways, in Benjamin Fulford's website, I printed out these pages. And some of these topics, I'll just read you the labels here. Go look up his website and read some of these reports. They're outstanding, and they connect the dots between the lodges, the Freemasonic, the Illuminati, Council of Foreign Relations, all these secret things of the goings-on worldwide that affect us here in the United States today, where they're trying to take us down with this thing. One program running right now called Jade Helm, and of course we got the sky spraying all the time that's actually harming the trees and plants and birds and bees and people, controlling the weather, the HARP systems, the sky spraying systems, the moving of drones all over the United States, now with Jade Helm moving equipment and having exercises for the next couple months where they're pretending, they say, that they're going to round up dissidents who won't go along with the New World Order. So what's that got to do with this document here I'm going to review? As you will see, everything. U.S. government, corporate government, goes bankrupt. Now remember, Washington, D.C. is a separate sovereign city unto itself. And the money area of London has the same thing. And the one in the Vatican is a separate city. And the three of them are tied together. They're all one group. But they have sovereign territories where they're immune from the laws of the country they're in. Washington, D.C. It's a corporation that's running America outside of the Constitution of the United States. They threw that away a long time ago, in my opinion. And this document's to back that up. U.S. corporate government goes bankrupt on April 17th, refuses to acknowledge. Former U.S. Director of National Intelligence Dennis Blair works for Japanese gangsters. Chinese bid to take over the world fails despite support for Chinese Development Bank. Proposal for World Federation has now been passed on to key power centers. Recent post-U.S. corporate government goes bankrupt. We saw that. So he does these every week. Every Monday, I think they come out. Go to benjaminfulford.com. And all right, here we go. U.S. corporate government goes bankrupt until April 17th, refuses to acknowledge the United States of America Corporation, based in the Washington, D.C. extraterritorial enclave. Remember, it's an extraterritorial enclave inside the Republic of the United States of America, failed to make a payment on March 31st and was given until April 17th to come up with the goods, but was unable to. So this corporate government in the sovereign territory of Washington, D.C. has failed to make one of the payments of all that interest that's due on the money they borrowed, spending, building up all this warfare equipment, spying on the people, destroying other countries, all in the name of the USA citizen, which they think that they own and can tax to death to pay their bills. So if they can't pay their debt payment on March 31st, a couple weeks ago, are they going to look to the American people to fleece them or take from them everything they own? Is this what Jade Helm is all about? I'm not saying it is, but if this is what's going on and that's what they're doing, and the Freemasonic lodges, Illuminati, all these secret schools, occultic groups all over the world, really running things, the American people are sitting ducks. For that reason, the U.S. corporate government has gone bankrupt, the sources say. However, the folk in Washington do not plan to go quietly and are still fighting to survive. This can be confirmed in the corporate propaganda and government news wires around the world. Remember, Benjamin Fulford is formerly of Forbes magazine, has his own website, and he's been writing these provocative, insightful reviews every week. And he has a subscription. He gives you the first part of the thing for free, but you have to subscribe to read the rest of it in yellow. But there's enough in the free stuff to get the point of these Freemasonic lodges and the higher-up masters, Illuminati, world controllers, that a lot of people don't know what to think. Alright, this can be confirmed in the corporate propaganda and government news wires around the world. In reports about the Washington IMF International Monetary Fund, World Bank meetings that ran from April 16th to 18th. The news reports to the general public do not mention the world bankruptcy, but rather say things like 19 out of 20 so-called G20 countries are angry with the U.S., who will not give up its veto over World Bank and IMF. In other words, the U.S. government has been publicly refuted by leaders of 19 out of 20 top economies. So the sovereign USA government sitting in Washington, D.C. has set itself up against the whole world. How many people in the USA know that? BenjaminFulford.com. The current USA situation remains an old joke. My mother told me about a woman watching a military parade and shouting proudly, "Look, my son is the only one marching in step." Get it? Her son was the only one marching in step. Get it? Underneath the surface, too, there are a lot of spy movie type subterfuges going on, involving high domination bonds, identity theft, murder, and secret negotiations as various players jockey for positioning in the emerging new financial system. A new set of meetings between the White Dragon Society and the Communist Chinese government representatives last week ended with, and he stops there. Okay, so they're saying the people in Washington, D.C. can't make their payment, the American people don't know anything about it, and that the United States has set itself up against the whole world who's joining the Chinese bank-backed currency, which I don't think we should join that. And I think we should get our 170 bases closed, sell off all the assets, come home and take care of ourselves, our elected leaders, and the world would be much better off for it, in my opinion. But apparently, these people who run the world don't want to lose their power, as per this document. All right, April 15th. Like I said, he does this every Monday. Sometimes you have to see things to believe them. Today I got the name card of Dennis Blair, former U.S. Secretary of National Intelligence, overseeing all U.S. intelligence agencies, and former Commander-in-Chief of the U.S. Pacific Forces. It says that now he is Chairman of the Board and CEO of Sisakawa Peace Foundation USA. I like how they make these names. Sisakawa Peace Foundation. I'll bet it has nothing to do with peace. In other words, he works for the Yohei Sasagawa, a man multiple Japanese gangster sources have told this writer is a fellow gangster. So they call it a peace foundation, and it's a Japanese gangster group. Here is a link of a declassified CIA report about his father. All right, here we go, another one here. So there you have it, U.S. top brass retiring into Yokozuna fronts. Blair was speaking at a foreign correspondent club in Japan, where he dutifully rolled out the current Washington, D.C. party line for the corporate propaganda press. This writer was repeatedly denied an opportunity to ask Blair a question, so we will pose our question here. So remember, go on Benjamin Fulford's website.com, and if you like his stuff, subscribe to him. I'll give credit where credit is due here. I wanted to show that there are groups working behind the scenes, doing things and selling out the U.S. people, connected to these high-level secret society groups that most of us don't know anything about. Mr. Blair, you work for Yohei, a man who created money out of thin air by fraudulently claiming it is backed by legendary treasures hidden in Indonesia and Philippine caves. Okay, moving on. My follow-up question was to be, the United States Constitution clearly states that the power to create money belongs to the government of the people of the United States, so at what point is the U.S. military going to keep its oath to protect the Constitution by nationalizing the Federal Reserve Board and freeing the American people from debt slavery? You know, this Jade Helm thing, it would be nice if it was the military getting ready to get rid of all these criminals in Washington. But I think they would have to kind of make it real clear to the people that they're on the people's side and they're not there to kill all the people. Crazy mind stuff going on. Look it up on alternate websites. Jade Elm. BenjaminFulford.com. Read this stuff. Stephen Quayle. Infowars.com. Drudge Report. Planet X. Nibiru. New World Order. New Age. Satanism. TV programs. Moving on. This week's geopolitical news and analysts will appear on Tuesday. Alright. So he couldn't get it done on Monday, so he did it on Tuesday. April 7th. A meeting last week between the representatives of the Chinese Communist government and the White Dragon family, there you go, another group, ended badly after the Chinese stated their goal. Get this is Benjamin Fulford reporting from Japan. The Chinese stated their goal was to take over control of the planet. They were told the Chinese account for at most a fifth of the world's population. So these people are having meetings in the background. So the best they could hope for was 1/5 of the world power. And during this Jade Helm thing, they're saying there are foreign troops on our soil. Russians and North Koreans and Chinese. So do the Chinese really want to take control of the world because they now have all the gold? I think it's all a confidence game and they're selling us, the people, out. These secret things go all the way back to George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, John Quincy Adams wrote in his book here. I got so many books there, runneth over. I have to tell you a lot about what's going on here, but all the way back since George Washington, John Quincy Adams was the president. He tells all. The Republican and the Democratic parties are all a farce. It's meant to appease the people, to put the Workers' Party people on the Democratic side, and the business owners and some people with money on the Republican side, and they keep them each at the loggerheads of fighting each other. 100 years, 200 years. People won't wake up. If they don't wake up, we're all doomed. The White Dragon Society has proposed the creation of a world federation. We all know the New World, the United Nations is an occultic group owned by the Illuminati, controlled. All the leaders have been communists, so I have read. Not a fascist New World Order, so they're trying to call it a different name, but they want a world federation. So again, so many people are onto the New World Order, they want to call it a world federation. In order to achieve permanent world peace and start a golden age. Well, that's New Age golden age, a return of the golden age of unprecedented progress and prosperity. That's all New Age lies and promises they're never going to keep. The proposal was made during ongoing secret negotiations to the Pentagon, the Vatican, the Chinese, the British Commonwealth, and other power centers, as I have kept saying, as I keep saying. Under this proposal, the United Nations Security Council would be replaced by people representing the political consensus of seven major regional groupings. But we know they want to divide the world up into 7 or 10 different nations. These would be Africa, China, East Asia excluding China, Europe including Russia, India and the Muslim world, and North and South America. Decisions would be made by a majority. And we know that when the decisions are made by a majority, the majority is lied with the news and the newspapers. So the decision made by the majority will go anywhere where the money pays them to go. And the lies in the newspapers. So majority decisions, people are just going to go ahead and vote for whoever promises them the most, even though they're lying. And each region would have a veto only for its own region. Each region would also have its own metrocratically staffed future planning agency and people-owned central bank. You know, if the people would just abide by the laws we have now in our country and get their loyalties straight, we don't need to change anything. We do this new organization. It's only meant to appease people, fool them, furthering us down the road with our rights slowly being taken away. In addition, a metrocratic future planning agency would be established for planning mega projects that transcend regions. Technocrats with good track records of existing international institutes like the World Bank and IMF would be invited to join either this or one of the regional agencies. The Pentagon, the Chinese Armed Forces, and the Russians Armed Forces would gradually integrate to form a planetary protection force. So the Pentagon, the Chinese, and the Russians would be a planned planetary force. So we, the people here with this jade helm and the Pentagon United Nations troops dispersing across our country right now like a wave of bugs, mosquitoes, bees, across the United Nations right now. Jade helm, look it up. So far, the Pentagon plus the agencies, the P2 Lodge, the Vatican, the Chinese, the Russians, and the Germans, and the British have all given initial signs they support the plan. This is all the New World Order. The creation of such a structure would make it possible to resolve all international disputes through arbitration, court cases, and sporting events instead of war. Sporting events instead of war? That sounds like a Hunger Games movie. It would also allow the release of equivalent of tens of trillions of dollars to spend on an unprecedented campaign to end poverty. They created poverty. Alan Greenspan said before Congress years ago they were running a program called Creative Economic Destruction. They couldn't offer us a carrot if we weren't hungry. They had to make us hungry. They had to bring down our economic. They had to make us all lose our homes, jobs, poor homeless people on the streets. Crime would go up. They had to create the situation where they could come in and save everybody. And if they do come in and you accept them, do you really think it's going to be good to be under the control of all their electronic cameras and microchips and listening programs? And Jeb Bush just said that on the news today, press release. Routers, you can look it up. He agrees with Obama's expansion of the spy program by the National Defense Association, NSA, National Security Agency. Jeb Bush was siding with Obama on that. And they want to stop environmental destruction. They caused environmental destruction. Fukushima, spraying that crap in the Gulf that they wouldn't tell us they were dumping on there to disperse the oil. All the spills and all the oils everywhere. Look it up on the internet. Thousands of them. The sky spraying, HARP systems, creating new ecosystems and explore the universe, among other things. In the public square, we can find strong evidence that a new system has been agreed upon in principle. When China announced its Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, the Kabbalists, there you go, the Cabal, in Washington, that's all these Illuminati, Freemasonic, high-level, Council of Foreign Relations, Heritage Foundation, all these other secret groups, lodges, told their allies not to join. Since then, Australia, Brazil, Canada, England, France, Germany, South Korea, Russia have all announced they would join. They're turning away from the United States of America. This forced the IMF and the World Bank to also announce their support. What is left of the old financial system is a combination of functional retail system and a dysfunctional institutional system. In other words, salaries, electric bills, and the like are still being handled on a realistic basis at the street level, but stock markets, bond markets, hedge funds, and the like have left the real world a long time ago. Supercomputers, algorithms, and their handlers are duking out with each other using quadrillions and decadrillions. Look it up, there is such a number. of dollars in complete detachment from the real world, where 1 year of world GDP is only 100 trillion. The plug is about to be pulled on all that. Here we go. Now this is important. Remember, Satan is mentioned in the Freemasonic manuals and all the other books. The Satan-worshipping Khazarian Hyksos, Hyksos, families that control the old system are now... So the Khazarians are just below on my map, Russia. You can look up the country. It's a huge country. About half the size of the USA. And these are the ones who turned Jewish years ago. And they're the ones behind the, I think, behind the Rothschild, Rockefeller banks. And in the Revelation in the Bible, it says Jews who call themselves Jews but are not. So the people behind these Illuminati people are probably these Khazarian Satanists. And George Washington wearing an apron, being a leader, a god almost to the Freemasons, whether he knew it or not, was one of them. Alright, there has been an undeniable pole shift in the international finance system that has left the old Khazarian Satanist cabal out of the loop. So they're trying to squeeze out all these people running our country right now. And again, the American citizens don't know anything other than the fact they got Jade Helm being dispersed all over the country, setting up as if they're preparing for martial law. Are they preparing to take down the USA, and they're getting ready to cage in all the people and kill anybody who gets out of line? This change was formalized as predicted on March 20th, a couple weeks ago, to coincide with the solar eclipse, super moon, new moon, and spring equinox. That's occultic, witchcraft, Freemasonic, Illuminati, Zionism, Kabbalah, that took place then. After the UK split with the US to join China's proposed Asians infrastructure, investment bank, Germany, France, Italy, Switzerland, Japan, Australia, and others followed. Then, according to the Pentagon sources, the corporate U.S. government in Washington, D.C., which is not part of the United States of America, they have our own sovereign territory there in Washington, D.C., failed to make a gold delivery and effectively went bankrupt. Is this why they're sending troops all over the United States for Jade Helm? Will they confiscate everybody's gold and money to pay their bills? As a result, the U.S. Republic announced that they would work with the AIIB. In effect, this means that the BIS, World Bank, and the IMF have all undergone a fundamental change in management. If I had to choose only two words that unite China and the world at this moment, it would be structural reforms. But was how IMF head Christine Lagarde described the situation. Structural reforms. The IMF International Money Fund head Christine Lagarde described the situation. Speaking in Beijing on March 22nd, Lagarde said the IMF and China would work together to promote the good governance, anti-corruption, and preserving the environment. So they've been tricking us with global warming, climate change, trying to take away our rights. Next thing they're going to do is sustainability, and either further enslave everybody like the Hunger Games movie. Do you think? She concluded her remarks by saying the IMF is proud to be a partner in China's economic endeavors here at home in China and on the global stage. In other words, she was admitting in public that this once Washington-controlled institution was under new management. So this is my first of, like I said, at least 10 videos of reading from this. So we'll gain some education into the practices and policies of those Freemasonic lodges. We're going to read from other books, people who wrote about the Freemasons and their religion and all kinds of goings-on. And I got out this guy here, William Morgan, who disclosed some of the secrets. And, of course, they have to swear an oath with a penile gland. A penile threat, that they would be killed if they divulged the secrets. And Mr. Morgan did write this little book and published it in the late 1800s. And yes, he was killed. And we'll get into that. And maybe poke around a little bit more about the Bible of the Freemasons. And a little bit about some of the occult religion, theocrat. What do the symbols mean? The triangles. Who's a party to this? How many? You can see I've been starting doing my homework and made my markers here. So the Freemasons, high places, people controlling things, secret groups, secret oaths, worshiping Satan, Lucifer. Now they're talking about bankrupting Washington, D.C., and in secret, without the people of the USA knowing, they've made a decision here to form a new system. They're switching from the New World Order to reform. Can we believe it? Is it just another deception? Thank you for watching my videos. Rick Miracle reporting.